I'm sorry. This might actually be the last message I'll ever send out. That's crazy, right? I don't know where to start. I know I'm rambling already. It's just... I think somewhere along the way, I fucked up. Maybe I insulted some god or the whole universe. I don't think I did. But if that's the case, please, forgive me. The whole thing started not even a week ago. At least, that's what I would like to believe. Maybe there were signs before. I don't know. It's not like I can remember everything that's happened to me over those past few months. Why would I? My life was perfect before. Well, maybe perfect is a stretch, but normal. I had a job, an apartment, friends and family. And now? Shit. I'm completely alone. My family thinks I'm insane. My friends abandoned me. I lost my job, and I can't go back to my apartment. How's that for turning one's life upside down in a matter of days? Everything I've ever wanted, everything I built for myself, it all just went up in a proverbial cloud of smoke. And it all started on that shitty night. I came home from work, tired, exhausted, and annoyed. That much I remember clearly. It hadn't been an especially bad day, not one that would stick around in my memories, but one of the shittier ones nonetheless. I think I had a meeting with my boss or something like that. As I said, I don't really remember. Anyway, after I had come home, I ordered some takeout since I was in absolutely no mood to cook. And while I waited for it to arrive, I sat down on my couch and started mindlessly scrolling through social media. There wasn't anything memorable there either. Just a bunch of memes and reels I can hardly remember even now. I must have nodded off though, because I dreamt. And that I can recall vividly. In my dream, I looked down at myself sitting on the couch, staring at my phone, blissfully unaware of my surroundings. It was strange seeing myself like that. Like I was watching some other person or the most boring reality TV show ever. My eyes were completely glued to the screen, while my thumb scrolled down and down and down again. That was when everything started to change. The air seemed electrified, colors drained out of the walls and furniture. Above me, the light was dimming. The whole apartment suddenly felt off. But I, sitting on the couch, didn't notice at all. Neither did I look up or stop my doom scrolling, or even slow down at all. The person sitting on the couch was completely oblivious to the world, and somehow, I think I felt fear then, for the first time. Not scared, like when I was ordered into the meeting with my boss or when another driver almost hit my car, but full on fear. It's a feeling I can hardly even describe. Like, I suddenly felt cold, but my heart was beating so fast. Sweat was breaking out all over my skin, and yet I was shivering. My mouth was completely dried out in a matter of seconds, and there was this pit in my stomach. Almost weirder though, the body on the couch didn't show any such signs. I suddenly felt this strange disconnect as I looked around the room to find whatever was the source of this terror I was feeling. It didn't take me long to find it. Smoke was coming in from the door to my apartment. Not normal, real smoke, but something that just looked like it. It started off as a single black wisp slipping into my home from below, then rising up toward the ceiling. The moment I saw it, I felt this dreadful fear again. I knew immediately that it wasn't smoke from a fire somewhere in the building, but something else entirely. Something ethereal, supernatural. It seemed to suck in the light and warmth of its surroundings, and I felt the chills intensifying. The first wisp reached the ceiling, then hovered there as more and more smoke now wandered in from beneath the door and followed the rest up. It was bad. Evil. I knew it. I felt it deep within my bones. The smoke formed a ball, hovering just beneath the ceiling, growing with every passing second. I tried calling out to myself, sitting on the couch, but my body still didn't seem to realize how much danger it was in. This darkness that was forming just a few steps away pulled in all the warmth, and I felt like I could feel my mind freezing. It was terrible, dangerous. And yet, I watched myself sitting there, scrolling on my phone, completely oblivious to its presence. The ball of smoke slowly got thicker and thicker, until finally the last of it passed through into my apartment and made its way up. Complete panic struck me as I saw it. I knew something bad was about to happen. I tried to scream and yell, but my body on the couch still didn't move. The thing was just a few steps away. The whole apartment was ice cold. Why didn't that person on the couch feel it? Do something, I growled at myself, then stopped and looked over as the last bit of smoke finally reached a giant ball, and it started to shift and turn. It kept its form, but inside, it moved like a hurricane. I could see it swirling, twisting, and shifting around. The panic I was feeling grew even more. Every single instinct screamed at me to somehow run away, to get away from this thing as quickly as possible. But I couldn't. All I managed to do was watch as the ball slowly sank down toward the floor, then touched it. And suddenly, the violent swirls inside of it stopped. It was calm. Not just the ball, but everything around the apartment. As if the world was holding its breath, I thought back then. The sphere, formerly made of smoke, now looked more like it was filled with liquid. It shimmered in the dimmed light as if it were made of ink or oil. My heart seemed about to break through my ribs as I watched it closely, now 2 steps away from the figure on the couch. A strange hum filled the apartment and made the air vibrate. I could see it having an effect on the body on the sofa as well. For a single moment, the figure stopped scrolling and seemed to ponder something, only to then go back to its previous activity. I wanted to scream more than ever before in my life. It was starting. I could feel it. Something bad was going to happen. The liquid inside the ball started to shift, but not in the way it had before. I could see a single point in the surface looking toward me, getting disturbed, then ripples slowly moving out and across it. Tiny waves flowed over its exterior, hitting each other, then disappearing again. It looked like a pitch-black ocean, now starting to get unruly. I couldn't take it anymore. This thing wasn't meant to be here, I told myself as I screamed in my mind. Whatever it was, it had come straight out of hell. As if it had been sent here by someone or something. I watched in horror as the spot where the first ripples had flowed out from shifted again, then parted. A single white speck appeared in the dark liquid, and I knew immediately what I was seeing. It rose, pushed through the surface of oil and ink. A fingernail, then the rest of the finger. In my mind, I screamed again and tried to get the attention of the body sitting on the sofa, only 2 steps away. The rest of the hand followed the finger. Its skin was white like marble, but the black veins beneath gave it a dirty, greyish look. The nails on the fingers were all long and partly torn. The sound they made as they reached the carpet in the middle of the living room almost drove me mad. They were scraping across the fibers as they burrowed into the soft material and pulled. Slowly, I watched the arm grow from the dark liquid, then the other hand appear. This thing was coming out of the ball. It was breaking through the surface, bit by bit, while my body sat on the couch so close to it and didn't even realize what was happening. The 2 arms now pulled the rest of the thing free. Its shoulders came out, then its head. I started begging my body on the sofa to wake up, to pull me out of there, but it didn't move. Still, only fixated on the screen of the phone, totally oblivious to the monster crawling out of the black ball and toward it. I continued scrolling. Horror gripped me as I looked at the thing's head that had now appeared. It was as white as the rest of its body, completely bald, but with black veins running beneath its skin. Slowly, it lifted its head, and I felt myself almost losing consciousness. The eyes were black, just like the liquid, and they were looking straight at me. Its nose was sunken in, grey lips surrounded a dark mouth and stained, sharp teeth. It pulled itself free, and there was nothing I could do against it. Slowly, the rest of it came out of the ball. An emaciated body appeared. Long, thin legs, almost insect-like, touched the floor of my apartment. Its lips formed a snarl as it cocked its head and looked up at me. Not at the body sitting on the couch, but me. I felt the world around me going dark. My heart was racing so bad it hurt my chest. I was trembling, shaking under its gaze. The snarl in its lips turned into a smile as it stretched out one hand, then started crawling over the floor. I screamed inside my mind, then suddenly heard the doorbell and saw my body jump off the couch. As I blinked the next time, I found myself walking toward the door where my food had just arrived. It's strange. I can remember it all so clearly now. Yet somehow I couldn't back then. My pulse was suddenly racing, and I was sweating all over my body. But for some reason, I couldn't imagine why. I told myself the doorbell must have scared me, and that was the reason. So I wiped my sweat-covered palms on my pants, opened the door, and took the food. Honestly, I don't remember much of that evening after that. I think I spent it in a strange haze, my heart racing all the time, cold sweat running down my back, while I still couldn't make heads or tails of it all. It was as if something was blocking my memories. And I'm pretty sure I know what it was now. That strange kind of fear still held me in its grasp until late into the night. I think I finally managed to go to bed at around 1 or 2 o'clock. By that time, wondering what was up with my body. Well, I guess what happens next won't surprise you. As I lay down in my bed and started to drift off, I suddenly found myself outside my body again. I could see myself lying there, breathing softly, while the rest of the apartment was dark and almost silent. Still, now remembering again, I couldn't help but panic already. This thing was out there, somewhere. I could feel its presence, even if I couldn't see it yet. Every instinct warned me, begged me to wake myself up. But I couldn't. I screamed at my body and howled at it, but as before, nothing I did made any difference. Minutes passed while I shouted and wailed until suddenly I felt the hair on the nape of my neck standing up. Looking over at the open door to my bedroom, I saw what I had dreaded since finding myself caught in this strange out-of-body experience again. A naked, hairless figure with white skin like marble and dark veins beneath was kneeling on all fours on the threshold to my bedroom. Even in the weak light, I could see it. The thing was looking at me. Not the one sleeping, but the other form of me, begging the body to wake up and get out of bed. Its stare felt like ice-cold needles burrowing into my mind. Then it started crawling forward. I felt my blood run cold as I watched it helplessly. Its skin seemed almost translucent in the weak light. It looked like it was about to pounce across the room and toward me, and I could do nothing against it. But instead of doing so, it suddenly stopped, then cocked its head again and turned its attention away from me and toward the bed. The smile forming on its lips looked almost like an animalistic snarl. It turned its body and started crawling again, away from the bed, I thought at first, until I watched in horror as it put one hand on the wall, then another. Slowly, this thing moved up the wall, while its head seemed to twist and turn to always look at the sleeping form on the mattress. I can't describe the fear I felt as I watched it pass from the wall to the ceiling, where it made its way across the room. Its emaciated body moved slowly, but I could see the muscles beneath the white skin bulging every time it took another step. The bald, freakish-looking head with the sunken-in nose moved from side to side, while its dark eyes were fixated on my sleeping body. I wanted to scream again, but I couldn't bring myself to do so. This monster that had invaded my apartment might hear me, a part of myself warned. Yeah, I know. It was after my body, and if it heard it, I would suffer as well, but having this thing stare directly at me was something I couldn't even describe. The feeling, the dread, the absolute hopelessness. I've tried to forget about it for days, but I can't shake it. It crawled across the ceiling, passed by the lamp, and only stopped once it was right above my bed. Those eyes, staring down at my sleeping form, would give me nightmares if I could still dream. I watched it helplessly as it slowly cocked and turned its head, taking in the sight with this strange and wicked smile on its lips. The sharp teeth almost glimmered in the weak light while it stared down at me like a fucked up kind of vulture. I let out a howl then and there, unable to stop myself any longer, and the thing's head suddenly shot around. It looked at me again with this same wicked smile. My whole being was trembling like a leaf as I stared back at it, praying in my mind for anyone or anything to come down and rescue me. but nothing answered my begging. Instead, I saw the monster extending one hand, crawling along the ceiling, and moving down the wall behind my headrest. It was coming closer, slowly but deliberately. Its eyes were almost glowing in the darkness as it looked at the head of my sleeping form. I watched its mouth open, then close. It almost looked like it was chewing. I screamed again, but this time the thing didn't even stop or throw me a glance. It was entranced by the body on the mattress that now seemed to sleep restlessly. "Please wake up! Please wake up!" I repeated, while shivers ran through me. The monster continued crawling down the wall, its marble white palms flat against the surface. Why wasn't I waking up? I almost felt like I was losing consciousness from the fear alone. But my body, lying there on the bed, didn't react. The thing was so close already. Its hands touched the top of the headboard, and it slowly moved its upper body forward. I could see its mouth opening again as it put its face right above my head. If it closed it now, it would bite off the tip of my nose, I thought, and screamed in my head. "Wake the fuck up!" I shouted at myself, out of my mind with fear and terror, and suddenly the eyes of the body on the mattress opened. I remember looking up at the ceiling in the darkness. There was nothing above me, and yet my body was shaking like a leaf, while sweat soaked into my bedding. I was half convinced I had peed myself in my sleep, rolled over and looked down. No, there was a giant damp patch in the form of my whole body on the mattress. My pulse was racing. I could feel this strange kind of fear still gripping me, but I couldn't for the life of me remember what had happened. All I knew was that there was no way I would sleep again that night. My instincts howled at me as I stood there, cold and shaking, sweaty with a racing heartbeat. "Wake the fuck up," I whispered, as if in deep thought. I remember it clearly now. It was the first time I managed to somehow access even a tiny part of my memories. And one could argue it was the point where my life started to break apart. Instead of going back to bed, I hopped into the shower, then pulled off all the bedding and put it into the washer. My heartbeat was still too fast. No matter what I did, it seemed it wasn't slowing down. I thought about sitting on the couch and scrolling on my phone, but somehow something inside me immediately balked at that idea. It's kind of hard to describe, but a strange sensation had gripped me since waking up and wouldn't let go. I felt followed. No, hunted, even though there was nothing dangerous anywhere inside my apartment. At least, I thought so. Back then. So, I stayed up the rest of the night, cleaning, while this damned feeling never fully disappeared. I couldn't understand back then why I seemed to get more nervous any time I approached either the bed or the couch. But now, with hindsight, I can't comprehend how I couldn't remember back then. It was as if my memories had been cut off. But maybe spending the night cleaning up and thinking about it finally managed to slowly re-establish that connection. I heard my alarm to wake up while I was already 3 coffees deep and standing in the kitchen. Got dressed and left early for work. That I definitely shouldn't have done. Besides feeling exhausted and on edge, I also couldn't shake the sensation of being followed, no matter where I went. In my car, in the office, even while sitting on the toilet in one of the tiny cubicles. I caught myself checking my surroundings again and again and again. It was like I was getting paranoid. Well, I I definitely was paranoid at that point, but for a good reason. Everything broke apart just before lunch. I was at my desk taking a breather, and as I put my head down on the table and closed my eyes, I suddenly felt it again. The sensation of being watched so closely. It wasn't like before where it was hardly more than a fleeting feeling. No, I could sense it. My body grew cold in an instant. My heart rate spiked. I was trembling uncontrollably but couldn't move my body. And then I remembered. Everything. Tears suddenly flowed from my eyes as sweat broke out and the hair on my body stood up all at once. Something had hunted me, I remembered. A monster I couldn't do anything against. It had come to my apartment in a ball of smoke. It watched me, followed me. I wanted to stand up and scream, but my body simply didn't listen. It wasn't like sleep paralysis or anything like that. All it was fear. Like a rabbit suddenly seeing the snake just inches from its body, or a deer finding itself in the headlights of an oncoming car. It was here, with me. Something cold touched my shoulder. A hand I knew would be white as marble, with black veins running along beneath its skin. The hairless head was just a hand's width away from my face. Grey lips were snarling, exposing stained but sharp teeth. I screamed as I shot up and flailed my arms. My hand connected with her face, and I felt warm skin against my knuckles before I jumped back. In front of me, with a hand up to her cheek, stood Angela, my co-worker. She stammered some words, and people were looking at us. I know, I should have played it off as an accident and explained that I had had a nightmare. But I couldn't. Everything that had happened to me these past 12 hours was now fresh in my mind. I screamed at the top of my lungs as my eyes shot from corner to corner in the office. It was here. My instincts continued howling in my mind. It had followed me. People were rushing toward me, and I felt this sudden urge to run away. If they got me, if they held me down, this thing would start to move again. I ran and pushed the first person out of the way, hard. Someone was screaming, and people were reaching out to me. I couldn't stop. All I could think about was getting out of there. One of my coworkers stood in front of the door, and I shoved him with all my might, sending him stumbling against the wall before I ripped open the entrance and ran out. Behind me, people were screaming. But I didn't care. I looked over my shoulder and couldn't see anyone or anything following me, but I still felt it. This gaze on my back. It was here, somehow, even if I couldn't see it. I ran, got in my car, and drove off. It didn't help. The thing was still close by, still following. I cried and hit the wheel while driving erratically through the traffic. Going home was out of the question. The thing had already been there once. So I called around, got one of my friends on the phone, and thank God they were at home that day. At least that's what I thought back then. I parked my car on the street below the apartment complex and ran up the stairs, still sweating and shivering all over. Calling me a mess back then would have been a compliment. I reached my friend's apartment, and they were already standing in the open door waiting for me with a concerned face. That's when I saw it. Behind them in the hallway, a single white hand with black veins was reaching out of an open door, holding onto the frame, ready to shoot out and attack me once the door of the apartment shut behind me. My body stopped as I trembled and raised one arm, pointing a finger at the hand by the frame. Words wouldn't come out of my mouth. I felt myself almost hyperventilating. That look on my friend's face. All I saw there was concern mixed with incredulity. I don't know if they really couldn't see it, or if they just pretended not to. Maybe this thing is everywhere, I thought, as I turned around and jumped back down the stairs, driving off without looking back or reacting to my friend's shouts. I still don't know if that's the truth. What I do know is that I can't trust anyone anymore. My family tried to reach out to me. Mom and Dad told me to come by, but I immediately shut that down. Not just because the monster could be there, but because even if it isn't, I wouldn't be safe. If the authorities are waiting there, they might lock me up. The idea of sitting in a cell alone with this monster makes me want to scream. My sister called and told me to seek help. Yeah, I tried that, but no one seems to take me seriously. I dropped my old phone into a kennel so they can't find me. And I've been hopping from motel to motel, fleeing from something that can appear anywhere at any time. Sleep is impossible now. I almost nodded off a few days ago and felt it lying behind me, almost hugging me as its mouth opened and cold breath brushed past my neck. So, I've been scoring some stuff to help me stay awake. I can't even remember what sleep feels like, to be honest. My last nap was almost a week ago. I got this old phone from one of the dealers I visited, and I'm now using it to write out my last will, I think. It's still here, this thing, still looking at me even now as I'm sitting at this dirty table in this dingy motel room. I think I can feel it now, though. These past few days, I got kind of a sixth sense for it. Sometimes it goes away for a bit, and I can at least take a few breaths without drawing its attention. But most of the time, this thing is close by, watching my every move. I think it's waiting for its chance. To do what? I don't know. All I know is that at this very moment, it is close by, above me, on the ceiling. If I concentrate, I can hear it breathing softly, watching me with its dead black eyes, grinning its wicked grin with its cursed greyish lips, licking its sharpened teeth. It's enjoying it. That I know. If I turn around and look up, I might catch a short glimpse of its body crouching there. This thing can only be seen when it wants to be seen. And I think I know why it chooses to do so. It likes my fear. The taste, the smell of it. Maybe that's why it's keeping me alive for now. To feast on my fear before coming down and tearing me apart. I had quite a bit of time thinking about it all those past few days. And I don't know. Maybe it's not that this thing came after me a week ago. Maybe it was here all along, feasting on my fear, following me around. If I think back now, there were many occasions throughout my life where I felt this sudden anxiety or woke up with a racing heartbeat. What if it was the reason for it even back then? If it was always watching me, if I just didn't remember and only now, after trying to establish that connection. What if it isn't just me? There could be more of those things. They could be everywhere. Watching, waiting, biding their time. Stalking us all, even if we can't remember. Disturbing our sleep, draining us, and getting aggressive if someone looks back at them. Maybe that was my biggest mistake. Acknowledging its existence. I don't know anymore. It's looking at me right now, cocked its head. I can feel that it has just opened its mouth. Oh, God. I'm so tired and scared. There's no one who will save me. I already know that much. But you, whoever you are, don't make my mistake. Don't remember. Just close your eyes. Take a deep breath. It's all just a dream, right? It's all just a dream.